The Bible shows that Satan has made use of the time to build up an organization in heaven and earth over which he rules.
Who else but an agent of Satan, a satanic organization, would want to spread a message that Satan has an organization in heaven over which Satan rules? Is it possible that the section over which he rules could apply to earth? Even with that understanding, there is still left the assertion that Satan has an organization in heaven. And certainly, God is not going to rule over any organization that Satan has. Surely, Satan has not merely one, but many organizations on earth. Is the Watchtower one of them? Please bear in mind, folks, that the Watchtower teaches that Satan was cast out of heaven in 1914. That amazing statement was made 55 years later. What possible reason could there be for the Watchtower to be declaring to the world that Satan has an organization in heaven over which he rules? Again, who could want to spread such a message but an organization representing Satan? That's only the first question.
The world's music, movies, videos, and television are designed to appeal to young people. They propagate the corrupt teachings of demons. But should this be surprising? Think about it. If false religion and politics are part of Satan's world, and they clearly are, does it make sense to believe that the entertainment promoted by the world is free of demon influence?
Take note of those words and stick a pin. I am making a departure here to share with you someone else's opinion. I do not necessarily share these views. I present them for the purpose of discussion, an important discussion. Take a look at this clip.
A very important man in history. This is Aleister Crowley. He's known as the most wicked man that has ever lived. 33rd degree Freemason. Crowley was the foremost Satanist of the modern era. He made no bones about the fact that he served Lord Satan. He was so evil, his own mother called him the Beast. He called himself regularly by this name and by the number 666. Crowley, this is very important, pay attention, devised a hybrid brand of black magic that is in vogue today. He was convinced that he was incarnated, or he was incarnating a new magical era that would supersede Christianity. Here's his eye. He believed in opening up that eye so you can understand magic and other dimensions. You can tap into knowledge. Eat off the tree. He had this book 777 about Kabbalistic teachings and writings. Basically, the book shows you how to tap into an ancient old one so that you can assert power for today. If you want to be a powerful musical artist, if you want to be a world-renowned actor, singer, or performer, this book, 777, teaches you how to find an old Nephilim spirit, what they call old ones. Summon that spirit in you by rituals and use that power for influence over people. Some of the things he taught, he said, let him train himself to think backwards, talking about his pupils, by eternal means and set forth by the following. Let him learn to write backwards, not just writing backwards, but putting messages and symbols backwards that the average eye could understand. Let him learn to walk backwards. That means looking like you're going forward, but you are really moving backwards. Let him learn to listen to records back then reversed. That means listen to the hidden messages that come forth in a backwards message, because you understand there's no way you can say a literal series of words forward to produce something backwards. It has to be a spiritual event only. So whenever you hear backwards messages, you say, now, if I write it down, it doesn't say that. That's because it's a spiritual occurrence that can't be explained. That's why he said, let him practice doing that. One artist that was influenced heavily by Aleister Crowley when he said, write backwards, sing backwards, listen to records backwards, Prince. This is 1999 CD album cover, records, LPs, with no CDs. Prince took Aleister Crowley's advice a lot. He mimicked him a lot. He infused it in this Prince album. If you read it forwards, it's not telling you anything, but if you flip it backwards, there's a message. It says 666 with a male organ and evil.
Let me just interrupt here. In fairness to Prince, it was the year 1999, so any reverse from anyone else would show 666, and I do not necessarily buy into the male reproductive organ idea, but maybe I am being naive.
That's what Aleister Crowley said, dude. That's not enough for you? When Prince won a gold album for this, look how he designed his album. Third Eye, the king of pop. When he bought the Beatles anthology so he could channel Aleister Crowley through it, he stole your heart. Says in this song, nasty boogie bugs me like somebody has drugged me. The spellbound rhythm gets on my feet. I changed my life completely. I seen the lightning leave me. And my baby just can't take her eyes off me. Look, the magic music moves me. That dirty rhythm grooves me. The devil's got into me with his dance. But he was an Egyptian incarnated God, so he would channel those spirits. He also channeled the spirits of Hypnos and Thanatos. Hypnos is the god of sleep. Thanatos is the god of death, and they're brothers along with Morpheus. Now, what becomes very dangerous about what Michael was doing, if you read, Michael Jackson would sleep sometimes 3 and 4 days at a time because he was trying to get hit songs. He even said one time that he couldn't go to sleep. He said a spirit told him that if he did not get to sleep to get this song, the spirit is going to give it to Prince. This is where the rivalry between him and Prince birthed in the 80s, if y'all remember that. Michael Jackson had 2 albums that told everything that he was doing. The first album he had that I'm going to show you is his history album. He built a statue of himself like Nebuchadnezzar because that Nephilim spirit in him wanted to be worshipped. But if you zoom into his arm, there's a number on his arm. And that number is 777. Aleister Crowley's book, 777. Quabbalistic writings. Channel Nephilim spirits for fame. Get your songs from the devil. There he is. The next album, he went a step further, and I'm about to try to bring this to a close. Y'all still with me? Dangerous. This album tells it all. Because if you look real close, this album is full of voodoo and witchcraft. You got the third eye right here over this door. You see it? You got the world, and it's upside down here. You got a lake, and then you've got skull and bones in this lake, and then you've got his eyes. But let's focus on this part because there is a deep, dark message in here. First thing you notice is Aleister Crowley. Aleister Crowley believed in satanic ritual abuse, and he believed in getting these Nephilim spirits from young, innocent children. Michael Jackson showed it symbolically on here. Here is his hand, and it's withered and white and cold with bandages on it. Here is a naked boy, little boy, holding the skull of a dragon. I don't think You need rocket science to decode that message. Aleister Crowley said it like this: for the highest spiritual working, one must accordingly choose that victim which contains the greatest and purest force. A male child of perfect innocence and high intelligence is the most satisfactory and suitable victim.
Prince and Michael Jackson are only two persons from the clearly satanic entertainment industry who are Jehovah's Witnesses. The website jwfacts.org has an article informing of quite a few others. The question is, why would these people be attracted to Jehovah's organization? Do they want to infiltrate and corrupt it, or do they find comfort in it? Doesn't it make more natural sense that they would find comfort in Satan's organization? And why would any organization claiming to belong to God accept these people without any visible change in lifestyle? I did a YouTube search for Prince to see if he is now doing gospel or sacred music. I found a video with him appearing on the Arsenio Hall show with a group or someone called Third Eye Girl. I couldn't quite figure it out. I endured his performance out of curiosity. It seemed pretty demonic to me. Is the Watchtower Satan's visible organization?
It was Crowley's goal through ritual magic and contact with non-human intelligent beings to bring to fruition the new age of Aeon of Horus. In 1919, Crowley drew a picture of an extraterrestrial intelligence which he was in astral contact with, named Lamb. And this is who he said taught him the whole book of the law and gave him the magic that he used to conjure up Baal's works. Watch this. Because Gnostics believe that the family created in Genesis was entrapment into matter. Remember I talked about that? Because they believe that they were being entrapped in flesh bodies into matter, they seek to destroy the family God created to free our spirits from control of Yahweh. This is why the family is no good to them. Aleister Crowley said the family is enemy number one.
Whether you wish to believe this pastor or not, you must know that it is Satan and not God who hates family. It is none other than Satan who would strive to destroy families.
The Jehovah's Witnesses claim to bring the families together. Through them, my brother killed himself. My mother tried to kill herself. My two sisters and my brother will not speak to me. My grandmother will not speak to me. She wouldn't let me see my grandfather before he passed away. They didn't bring our family close together. They nearly totally destroyed it.
That is not an isolated story. The many testimonies and experiences of families torn to shreds because of this organization is countless. You only need to go online to find them in their abundance. Is the Watchtower Satan's visible organization?
We just had a real distinct impression that we were supposed to obey God's law and go by what we had always been taught, and that we were to let our daughter die.
Who but an agent of Satan would lead a mother to believe it is God's will to let her baby die?
And I just told them, look, I just can't let my child die in that way. And the elders were just so upset. They left in a huff. They were mad. And one of the elders said on the way out, he looked me in the eye and said, you know what? I hope your daughter gets hepatitis from that blood. And that was just the straw that broke the camel's back. I was just broken here. My own people, God's organization, turning against me, cursing me, because I just wanted to see my child live. And so they left. And we were all alone. Even my own parents didn't come see us.
Seriously, is the Watchtower Satan's organization? Which organization led by God would produce such cold, uncaring, lacking in compassion kind of people? It was one thing for me to hear of it on that video clip. It is another to experience it firsthand. I want to share with you an experience I had with a Jehovah's Witness. But first, this question. Would any organization led by God promulgate such evil?
I think many times Jehovah's Witnesses have really never thought the blood thing through. It's either right or it's wrong. If it's wrong, the Watchtower Society is guilty of causing the deaths of thousands of people. That's wrong. It's evil.
I think the evil needs to be seen for what it is. It's this concept, this organizational concept, that the organization is everything. You see, Jehovah's Witnesses believe that this organization is God's one channel, that all of God's direction for people on the earth comes through this channel. And the men on the governing body believe it. I believed it. And that's the reason I was party to some things in the past that today I feel shame to think that I even had part in them.
I spoke with a JW friend of my brother recently. He and I had developed a little friendship after my brother brought him to my home a few years ago to do a study. I told him of a former Jehovah's Witness I saw crying on YouTube after he confessed to being a part of actions that led to the suicide of a relative. His cold response to me was, "Yeah, he's an apostate, just an actor." I told him that he does not know this brother and is therefore not in a position to judge the man's heart. It did not make a difference to him. He could not care less that someone committed suicide and that someone else is hurt by it. These people, in his mind, are apostates and are obviously not worthy of any compassion. But I was to find that the Watchtower did not only create a very cold person in this young man, the organization also created a quite stupid person. I'm sorry, but that's the way it is. The brother proved to be a genuine idiot. After telling him there are former Jehovah's Witnesses who have served the organization for 30 and 40 years, who left after learning the truth about the organization, this young man, young in the faith, told me that there is no apostate, even those who served as elders for decades, who knows anything about the organization that he does not know. And he was serious. Who but a stupid person could hold such a view? He is not an elder. He is not even aware of the contents of the elder's manual. Yet he believes that no one who has served as an elder for 30 years know more about the organization than he does. This young man has never been to Bethel. I doubt that he knows what I know about how decisions are taken in the governing body. I can read Raymond Francis' Crisis of Conscience. He cannot. Is this the kind of person that God's organization produces? Cold, uncaring, judgmental, and stupid? God does not have such an effect on people. Is the Watchtower Satan's visible organization? I had to seriously wonder if this young man was among the Watchtower produced mentally ill.
Dr. Jerry Bergman is a former Jehovah's Witness and a trained psychologist.
In my experience in working for a number of psychiatric clinics as a therapist, I've worked with many Jehovah's Witnesses, and I find that many of them suffer from severe emotional problems, from schizophrenia, from severe depression, alcoholism, and other problems. I've also consulted the scientific literature on this question, and I found that it clearly confirms that the mental illness rate among the witnesses is clearly above average.
You would expect God's organization to create happy, joyful, mentally healthy people, wouldn't you? Jehovah's Witnesses put the organization on the same level with God. They are of the view that the organization is led by God. They probably believe, as Raymond Franz previously did, that the governing body places the word of God above human tradition. I can see why they would believe that. You only need to look at their literature.
When the religious leaders themselves turn their backs on the Bible and teach human tradition and philosophy instead, what can they expect to impart to others, young or old?
And when I got into the governing body, I found that the Bible was rarely appealed to. was rarely used, that mainly was a matter of discussing organizational policy and how to apply this organizational policy. And I found that again and again, when issues came up, even though scriptures might be presented, if there was an organizational policy, that policy would take precedence over scripture. And I couldn't help but think of Jesus' words in Matthew 23, that they have made the word of God null and void because of their tradition.
Is the Watchtower Satan's visible organization?
Jehovah's Witnesses believe the men who make up the governing body are chosen and directed by God. Yet out of apparent indifference or ignorance or worse, the governing body allowed witnesses to illegally bribe officials, while at the same time holding others to a policy that resulted in their wholesale rape and slaughter. It's difficult for me to believe these actions were inspired by God.
But Jehovah's Witnesses would not even ponder that question. They just trust the organization. Fortunately, some of them have opened up their eyes.
We were so convinced that the leadership, the governing body, would never tell one lie. Mm-hmm. They would always speak the truth, yes, no matter what the truth was. Mm-hmm. That is a fabrication. It is a lie. They have lied to us. They have deceived us.
What is the Watchtower's view of lying?
We should speak truth, and not lie, for if we lie, we put ourselves in the company of Satan the devil.
And who shows respect to Satan by writing the word devil, with a capital D?
So, the Watchtower is fully aware that by lying, they put themselves in the company of Satan. Yet the Watchtower has built up a solid reputation for lying. In the previous videos, I spoke to several outright lies that I have uncovered so far in this channel, including 2 vicious lies that Jehovah's Witnesses are being trained to tell people, printed in their training manual, reasoning from the scriptures. Well, there is no end in sight to the Watchtower putting itself in the company of the devil by lying to its members. This is the year 2014, 100 years since Russell's major prophecies have failed to come true. The Watchtower this year released a book entitled God's Kingdom Rules. In the opening pages of that book is a letter from the governing body that reads,
Dear fellow Kingdom publisher, picture yourself as a member of the Brooklyn Bethel family on Friday morning, October 2nd, 1914. You are seated at your usual place at the breakfast table, awaiting the arrival of Brother C.T. Russell. Suddenly, the door to the dining room opens, and Brother Russell appears. He pauses for a moment, as is his custom, and greets the Bethel family with a cheery good morning all, but then, instead of immediately taking his place at the head of the table, he claps his hands, and makes a thrilling announcement. The Gentile times have ended. Their kings have had their day. You can hardly contain your joy. You have been looking forward to this moment for a long time. Along with the rest of the Bethel family, you greet this exciting news with sustained, enthusiastic applause.
That is a vicious, barefaced, disgusting lie. And the governing body knows it. I dare the Watchtower to present a honest photograph of that very significant moment, instead of this dishonest artistic display. The Watchtower cannot present a honest photograph of this, because it simply is not true. If Russell had dared to make a statement like that on October 2, 1914, he would have been mental. And if you were there and reacted as the liars suggested you would have reacted, you would have been a mental case too. Just 3 years earlier, as printed in the June 15, 1911 Watchtower, Russell taught this about 1914.
October, 1914, will witness the full end of Babylon, as a great millstone, cast into the sea, utterly destroyed is a system.
In his book, The Time is at Hand, published 25 years before 1914, Russell gave 7 things that would happen in or before 1914. I covered this in video 5. In 1914, Russell's understanding of the phrase, the end of the Gentile times, is not what the Watchtower understands and teaches it to mean today. Russell clearly understood it to mean the total coming to an end of all earthly governments. These are his words on pages 76 to 77 of his book, The Time is at Hand.
In this chapter, we present the Bible evidence, proving that the full end of the times of the Gentiles, that is, the full end of their lease of dominion, will be reached in AD 1914, and that date will be the farthest limit of the rule of imperfect men.
What would that mean in practical terms? It meant that Jesus Christ would have returned as Earth's rightful ruler, overthrowing all Gentile governments and establishing in their place his own righteous government. What then would Russell have witnessed in 1914 to make him declare to the Bethel family that the end of the Gentile times, as he then understood it, is here? And what would cause those present to greet his news with sustained enthusiastic applause? These men, the governing body, if they really have authorship of this pathetic piece of junk, are pathological liars. This is the true situation that greeted the Bethel family and Russell in 1914, as printed in their book Light 1.
All of the Lord's people looked forward to 1914 with joyful expectation. When that time came and passed, there was much disappointment, chagrin, and mourning, and the Lord's people were greatly in reproach. They were ridiculed by the clergy and their allies in particular, and pointed to with scorn, because they had said so much about 1914, and what would come to pass, and their prophecies had not been fulfilled.
That book is now out of print. The current members will not have a copy, because they are not to look at apostate websites where they can download a PDF version. So, they can easily be lied to. The Watchtower continues to put itself in the company of Satan with their blatant, barefaced, disgusting lies. Is this Satan's visible organization?
We just prayed and gave our heart to Jesus, and it seemed like it was such a simple answer, but that was what we've been searching for all our life, and it wasn't an organization. It was Jesus. It was a personal relationship with Jesus that we didn't have before.
Did we just witness an actor, or did we just hear a real testimony of a problem with the typical Jehovah's Witness? Do Jehovah's Witnesses have a personal relationship with Jesus? What kind of organization would create such a brand of Christians? The answer seems to me an organization led by the enemy of Jesus himself. Satan does not want people to have a personal relationship with Jesus. It would be in the interest of Satan to set up a counterfeit Christian organization that produce so-called Christians who do not know what it is to have a personal relationship with Jesus. Who but a satanic organization would teach people that Jesus is nothing but a created being? Whose agenda is the New World Order? God's or Satan's? In the next video, entitled The Watchtower's Babble, I take another look at the New World translation.